Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to a new episode from our series Meet the Furies. It's already been 5 weeks. It's incredible how fast time flies. I just want to check if the sound is working well. Sound, camera, everyone.
Can you hear me as well? Because we're sitting in different places.
Cool. Okay. So today we have with us Naseer.
Hello.
Naseer is our smooth operator. He will explain in a little bit what that actually involves on his day-to-day work. So we are very, very excited to have Naseer here because I think he will share with us some very, very useful things regarding publishing and going to market. Today is also a big day because another reason is that we have a big content update for Kingdom 2 Crowns that is going live today. It's something I know the teams have been working very, very hard on, and it's something we are very happy about. And for some of you, it's also a big day if you are based in the United States or if you are United States citizenship, because you should go and vote today, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Naseer.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure.
How did you end up in the games industry, and how is it for you working in the games industry?
Yeah, I can. So I started as like everyone else as a kid, and I wanted to work in games, but I missed the time where you could just like apply for any position and get it. So I understood pretty early on that I had to prove myself to get a job in the industry. And one good way to do that is through QA. So I started as a QA tester in a really small mobile games company. And this was back in 2004, I think. So before iPhones and all that. I learned a million of things there. But as we couldn't sell the games, the company was shut down.
Was it that in Sweden, in Stockholm?
Yeah, it was. It was called Synergenics, a really cool name. But after that, I went into test consulting. So I helped different companies with their test strategies and everything. And that's where DICE found me, because they were working on a free-to-play game. And they knew everything about like the games, but they didn't have any experience in the service. So they needed people with expertise from outside. So I entered that project as a web test lead. And I got stuck there. So I kept working at DICE for, I think, 8 years. And I moved from QA into more operations. And AAA is like this big, well-oiled machine. So they want you to do this small part. And I ended up doing DLC submissions for the DICE titles only, which I felt was restricting. So I tried to do something else, and that's how I found Refuree. And I've been here for, I think, 2.5 years now, helping publish in indie games and everything around that.
Small part, but so important, because it wouldn't work without what you are doing and the other colleagues at Refuree doing a similar role. And we will get into a little bit into more details on what that means in a little bit. I didn't know actually that you started working in the games industry as part of a mobile company.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I started, I think, maybe I don't know, a little bit later than you, but it's like a little like similar start as well. It was on a mobile company, and we were working with games with Java devices and
Yeah.
BlackBerry devices and
And you had
yeah.
these cute names like Golf 3D. There wasn't much like imagination. You just had to put out the game as it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, different times, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then smartphones came, and everything changed since.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you've been with Refuree for 2 years and a half, you said.
Yeah.
Seems like forever. Like so many things happen in these 2 years and a half. And I think you helped with shipping like lots of games. I don't know if it's like easy to say how many games you helped with at Refuree.
I kind of lose track because we don't only like submit games, but also patches and updates and DLCs. But it's been, my first one was Bad North. So much I can say. So I've touched everything after, and a couple of legacy things as well.
Yeah. And how many Furies are doing more or less like what you are doing at Refuree as well? How many of you are?
Yeah, there's 4 of us. So we have Mia, Dave, and Julie, and me in the release role. Which is like, as Liam talked about last week, it's not the only thing we do, but it's our main focus.
Quite a big team, right? For when you think like, oh, a small indie game, right? That's the perception a little bit, but you guys are quite a big team supporting all the games that we are working with. And maybe can you explain a little bit, like at Refuree, what is the difference between a release manager and the game producer, and where do the roles help each other, and what is different?
Yeah, sure. I feel it's more like a game producer focuses on the game itself. So very much developer focused, vision focused, just helping the developers fulfill their vision of what the game is. Me as a release, I'm more of everything outside of the game. So in the beginning, I help out with if there's licensing that needs to happen, if they need help with localization, age rating, stuff like that. So I help out with everything around a game. And then as we get closer and we need to submit a game to our partners, that's where we start working more together, because I need the developers then so we can fulfill all the requirements the first parties have to get a game out on a certain console.
So yourself, you also interact directly with the developers and prepare them for what's needed in order to take the game to market, right?
Yeah. So what and it's all different from Fury, but like what we try to do is when they're in production and they know what the game is, then it's time for me to get in and disturb them a bit and make them think about, we need this thing to release on PlayStation, we need that thing to release on Xbox. Have you tried this thing? So nudge them a bit, and then at the end, go, we have to do this because otherwise we can't release on this platform.
So make their life a little bit more complicated, but the end goal is to actually make it easier.
Exactly.
Right. So the game producers are making sure that the game, is taking shape in a nice way, and you are making sure it's taken to the market, right? In terms of all technical things and I feel deliveries and.
Exactly. My job is a lot easier, I feel, because there are rules and requirements for a game to be released on any platform. So in that way, it's easier for me. I can just point I don't know, they say this, we have to do it.
It's it's not me, it's them.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone is asking in the chat, what is your favorite game that Refuree has released so far?
It's maybe unexpected, but Tormentor X Punisher. It's so pure, that game. and I'm really bad at it. I play for like 1 or 2 minutes and I die. but like I feel it's so you're immediately in the game. You know exactly what you need to do. But then I'm too bad at it. But it's so fun.
So you don't get frustrated because it's so challenging.
No, and a funny story. When I had an interview, Kingdom is our big game, so I had a lot of questions about Kingdom New Lands, and I got a lot of questions about that. And I annoyed Gordon because he told me, like, how do you feel when you play Kingdom New Lands? And I was going, it's relaxing. It's zen. And he said, well, it should be stressing. No. And I feel the same with TXP. It's like, I'm just in the zone. I don't get frustrated.
That's very nice to hear. Yeah, and we can tell that this is not a biased choice because you weren't at Refuree when Tormentor Expanser was released. So it's you're just enjoying it.
If it's a bias, it's like you always remember your first game. Mm-hmm. So a bit bad north then.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. I was thinking maybe we can actually talk about. We can take a real case scenario, and talk a little bit about what is needed to release a game. So
sure.
The two of us, we talked a little bit before, so we have something like some visual materials to support the discussion. But please, everyone, ask questions in the chat if there are any. Otherwise, we will, go through it. So the problem sounds like this. We want to release a game on Nintendo.
Yeah.
Second. Okay. Let me see if I can show this. Okay, so want to release a game on Nintendo. Okay, is this working? One second.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, I think this is the beginning. Okay, but you know, like how we are in the sales side and the commercial side, we are trying as much as possible to take advantage of what a platform can offer and maximize. Maximize the release and benefit of these like commercial opportunities.
Yeah.
So we have the release happening, let's say December 1st, 2021. Yeah. not now in 1 month. That will be too soon.
Yeah.
But we would like to have also pre-order 2 weeks before the release.
Yeah.
And the coming soon page 2 weeks before the pre-order. Mm-hmm. And why not also maybe a demo that can start at the same time with the coming soon page or the pre-order.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, like we always come with like all these requests, and it's like let's do it this and that and that, and why not also launch discount to go with the pre-order or like at launch, and then reality hits, and we manage to do only maybe half of these things.
Yeah.
But if we would, in an ideal world, be able to do all these things, yeah. Like let's see how everything starts and how do we prepare for this launch.
Yeah. So I guess we start with needing product codes, because every first party, as we call them, or like it's Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Nintendo, GOG, Humble, they all have a backend where you set all of this up. So we start with, in this case, the Switch, and you go into their backend and you create a new product. Mm-hmm. So that would be a good start.
So why do we need that product code? So like, why is it essential to have it, and when do you need it?
So I can explain product codes. It's because it is essentially the game. So you send these codes to the developers and tell them, like, for your game, whatever it might be. If you use this product code, then Nintendo will know that your game is this thing here, so we can get it through their processes and release it.
So that we put it in the code, right? Developers, they use it in the code. That's the code.
So to identify the game as this thing.
Okay. So that needs to be done quite early on, right? Before you start the building process, I would assume.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with everything release, if you start as early as possible, the better result you get. So I would do that like months in advance.
Okay, so you kind of need to know which platforms you are targeting months in advance.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
And I mean, one thing we talked about even like before this, indie devs generally, they go, it's so fun to release a game. So for them, like, just getting it out on a machine, that's a big win. But I'd say, and we work a lot together because of the business and the release side and the game dev side, let the first parties know you have a game coming because they can help you. So if you start this process in months in advance, you start talking with people and you get them excited about your game so they can feature it and give you all the help you need.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, make them know that it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so here in this timeline that we have in the image, like we have, some numbers on the first row, like -20, -10, up to 0, and +4. Maybe we can explain a little bit, like why did we count like that, and why is coming soon marked as moment 0 on this timeline?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, these numbers represent weeks, because what we're dealing with is basically a weekly schedule is good to get in. You don't never get like an exact date because development happens. But if you stick to weeks, you get a better overview of what you need to do in advance. And so here you have submissions starting 11 weeks before the coming soon page. And you go, why that long? Because we also count in, we go through the certification, there might be errors found by the partners, in this case Logic. And if we give ourselves enough time, then we can fix the issues, resubmit, and be ready for the day 0. And sometimes you just pass on the first try, and then it's fine. It's a luxury to have, but at least plan for failure.
How many times would, like from your experience, like how many times did it happen that a game passed cert on Nintendo from the first trial?
I have a really funny story, and I won't mention this game, but we submitted a game expecting it to fail, and it passed on the first try, which made everyone panic because that was not really the version we wanted out. So we created a day 1 patch. They're good, by the way. I know everyone hates them, but they're really good. So it happened on the wrong occasion that we passed on the first time.
So why did you guys submit a version that it wasn't ready to be launched to the public?
I can mention that as well, but it means that it's not ready. So basically, every game you submit, there are issues with it because code is complex, games are complex. You can't have a perfect game. So when we submit that far in advance, you haven't even had time to go through the bugs that you want to fix, because they'll probably fail us on some things, so we can have time to fix these issues and resubmit. And they just went, game's good, you passed. So what we did then is, and we see it here, there's like a patch field as well. So we immediately created a patch and fixed the issues that we wanted to fix in a resub, but we did it in the patch instead.
Yeah. But in reality, that is quite seldom, no? When that happens, the game being approved.
I think that's the only time.
It was the only time, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so but here like we have coming soon pages moment zero because we need to start counting backwards, right, from the first time the game or a page of the game is on the store.
Yeah.
So the submission, like if you are counting for 11 weeks, it needs to be backwards from that moment. If you don't have coming soon page, for example, if you just aim for or pre-order, if you just aim for release, then it's more or less 11 weeks. You should start from that moment, right?
Exactly. And I can mention that this is the case for Nintendo because this is our example Switch. They don't want to set up coming soon pages or pre-orders unless you have an approved game. So that's why you count backwards from that coming soon page date.
Yeah. Maybe the image is not clear enough, or what's written here. So I will just read it out loud. So we have the first row is the main submission. The second one, the patch for the main submission. Then if demo, in case you are planning to have also a demo released in parallel. And then we took into account some awareness, marketing, commercial things to keep in mind that are so connected to the technical submission of the game.
If you don't have any marketing assets, no one knows your game is coming. It's really important.
Yeah, exactly. So as Naseer said, the first thing was submission for product code needed for development, as early as possible. Now, in our case, we put 20 weeks before the coming soon page. And as Naseer said, by this date, you already talked to the platforms and they know that you have a game that is coming on the platform. On the store.
Hopefully,
yes.
Because with Switch, you can actually submit the game without them knowing.
Exactly, and I think it was you saying that many developers they end up just releasing the game and then 2 days before or a couple of days before they reach out and say hey, can you help with some visibility? And that's so hard actually to get in a couple of days. Imagine these stores, they have schedules, they have calendars. There is so much going on their end as well, and it's not easy. We wrote also here always plan for an event demo build. So plan for that early on, right?
Pre all of this COVID thingy, you want to show your game to actual people. So if you have a demo build on a Switch and you can go around different events and go play my game, you make an impression, you get maybe connection with people.
So if I go to Gamescom and if I want to show the demo on a Switch, do I have to go through some kind of cert as well? Does it have to be approved?
There's the thing. There are dev kits that you get from Nintendo, or you can buy them actually. If your game is on there, you don't need to go through cert. But if you want to go through official Nintendo channels, then there are different ways to do that. Sometimes you don't need any certification at all. Sometimes you go through the special cert. But generally, if you want to go out and show your game by yourself, at that stage, you don't need a certified game.
Okay. So what's happening after that, Naseer? Something that you are very fond of.
Exactly. So if you're doing digital games, then age ratings are actually fun, quick, and easy because we have a thing called IARC now, which is this forum that gathers all different age rating boards, and they ask you to fill in a questionnaire, and then you get a rating for everything, basically, and then you're done. If you're doing physical releases on the memory card. Then there's a longer and more expensive process where you have to submit a playable version of your game to the age rating boards. You have to fill in quite a few documents explaining what your game is, if it's scary, if it's violent, if it has nudity, and if you use tobacco or drugs, and if there's swearing or references to all of that. And then you have to film, for most boards, a video between 15 and 30 minutes, not seconds, minutes, where you show the stuff that you've filled in the document there. Because the boards, they don't really have time to play your game. So they prefer to watch a video. But then they need the build in case they wonder about anything. Then they start up the build and check that you were honest and in which context things happen and stuff like that. And then they give you a rating.
Is the same for all the regions?
It's like the submission process for age rating, it's roughly the same in all regions, but different regions react on different things. So ESRB, US-based, violence is pretty cool with them, but if you have sex and nudity, you'll get a higher age rating. In Europe, it's almost the other way around. If you have sex and nudity, it's fine, but if you have violence, your age rating will go up. In Asia, it's a cultural thing there. If you have a dead body that you can interact with, that is seen as really bad. So you could get a higher age rating there. So,
right.
And I always say, like, don't see age ratings as censorship. It's a number, and it's a guidance for parents. This game is suitable for people over 12. And that's fine. But just be truthful and do your submissions. And whatever rating you get, it's fine. Don't change your game for an age rating.
Yeah. So guys, piece of advice from Naseer, age rating is just a number.
Yeah.
So this is how you do it for Nintendo?
Yes. And
is it similar for the other platforms?
Yeah, for digital, everyone uses IARC. So that's really good. It makes it really easy to submit a game. It doesn't cost anything. But if you do physical, then be prepared to put out time and money.
Okay, I didn't know that now it's IARC for all of them nowadays. Okay. Right, so age ratings, don't forget about it. Is the age rating something we need to put in the build as well, or it's only at submission, like on the store page?
It depends a bit. I think Xbox are the only ones that don't need it in the build, but the rest do.
Oh, right, okay. Didn't know that. So for submitting the games, it seems that we need also assets and localization.
Yeah, it's interesting because we haven't talked about that. So submitting a game is actually submitting two things. Mm-hmm. The actual game itself, but you also need to submit assets and localization and copy for the store page.
Yeah, metadata, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And for Nintendo, the process, how is the process? Can you submit both at the same time, or are they interconnected? How is it?
Yeah, Nintendo is very game focused. So what you can do in advance is set up everything, but you can't submit it until your game is approved.
Right.
So what I usually do with a Switch game is, as soon as I get the assets, I upload them and prepare everything. But I can't click the submit button until the game is approved.
Mm-hmm. So prior to the first submission, you help the teams make sure they're thinking about all these things, right? And preparing them, and they know, okay, you are going to have to add the age rating, you're going to have to, have the product code, think about assets, all these things. Yeah. And then you get the first build, which is the first release candidate, Gold Master, we can call it, right? Or what does it mean, Gold Master, for you?
So, Goldmaster is an old term, because what happened back then is that you had to print discs, and they usually printed them on gold-colored discs and sent them to a factory where they manufactured copies. So that's why they're called Goldmaster. But for me, it's like a candidate that is of that build that is good enough to be released in public.
So is internally to Fury, I know we don't really use, have milestones, and, we don't hang too much like on terminologies, but is the Gold Master what we get prior to submission or after it's been approved by the store? We call it Gold Master.
After it's approved, because this is like a release candidate. It can still fail.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so after final approvals, then it gets gold.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, so you end up with the first submission. Ideally, 3 months, right before the launch, the first launch of the page you are live.
Yeah.
You prepare also the same things for the demo in case there is a demo you want to release at the same time, because it requires similar type of assets, right? It's a build on its own, it's a different delivery, it's a different submission.
Yeah.
Right?
In Switch world, it's 2 different games basically, but one is called a demo and one is the real one. So you still need specialized assets for it and a special build for it as well.
So something that we already talked about, it's very common. The first build fails, right? And more or less, how long does it take to get some feedback on your first submission from Nintendo?
They say 10 business days.
10 business days.
So it's about 2 weeks.
All right, 2 weeks. Okay. So sorry, go on.
Yeah, they tell you why you failed, and it's often something that's like, of course it failed. We didn't find it, because it could be like if you disconnect the controller and try to connect another one, it won't connect. And then you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. It needs to connect, so they fail us and fix it.
Right. Yeah. And it takes more or less like 1 week, a few days, 1 week, right, for the development team to fix those issues. I guess it depends also on what type of issues.
But what we count in there is like, first we allow the developers to fix the issue, and then they make a build, and then QA goes through it to verify that it's fixed and that it hasn't broken anything else.
Right.
So you need that time.
Yes, exactly. So I assume there's another submission after that, and some cases that fails as well, right?
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. We've been there several times.
Exactly. And it's usually like something else that we haven't found, or it's a complex thing.
Exactly. We wrote here as well, like on the awareness line, set up news channels for the game. Yeah.
So on Switch, when you open up your Switch, you see that almost every game has their news channel where you can write about updates on what the game is and everything. That needs to be requested by Nintendo. It doesn't happen automatically. So if you do it in advance, then you're ready for that Day Zero coming soon page.
Right. So that takes a few weeks as well, right, to get it approved then.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So we resubmitted another build. We wrote here on the patch, made submission requesting for waivers.
Yeah, and I can explain what that is. So sometimes Logic, they tell you that, so listen here, if you turn off your internet connection and you play until the battery is down to 5% and you go to this specific setting, your game will crash. So we want to fail your game. But then you can have a discussion about that this will so rarely happen and it will affect our release date if we fix this issue. So we can seek a waiver where they go, if you promise to fix this in a patch, then we will allow the game through.
Right. That's nice of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you are submitting usually like day one patches, which is it's very common nowadays, as you said.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's what I told you. I said what I meant with they're actually good because they allow the game to be released. They have good fixes in them. Most of them, they're needed.
right. Yeah. So we are like two weeks before the coming soon page. Everything went well so far because we started this process long time in advance.
Yeah. We
Which
allowed ourselves to fail.
yes, something that in reality, like
It doesn't always happen like this. Sometimes we
exactly.
delay games.
Yes, and it's so hard to be ready for a submission like 11 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
But of course, we are aiming for it. So the bill has been approved. We have 2 weeks only until the coming soon page, the moment zero. What do we do after the build has been
So
approved?
now that we have a build approved, we can actually submit our store assets for approval by Nintendo. So that's why we need these 2 weeks, because it will take up to 10 days for the people at Nintendo to like verify that your assets represent the game. They're not being nasty, weird, or whatever. And usually you go through because you've submitted everything that you should. Sometimes they have feedback on anything so you can fix, but it's not like a failure as with a game. This is more like a discussion. You fix things quickly and you get approved.
Yeah. So, like, does it happen often that submission is failing because of the game assets or trailer? I don't know, description or
Not often, but what could happen is you might mention another brand in your store.
right?
Going like, this game is inspired by World of Warcraft.
Yes.
You're not allowed to do that unless you have permission to use that name. So they could tell you like, please remove that reference. And for trailers, it could be like, you're not showing the correct logos for the Switch or Nintendo,
Right.
or you're not showing the correct age rating, so you have to fix that. So I wouldn't say it fails the game, but you have to be prepared to make changes.
Exactly, and just adds time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we need at least 2 weeks to make sure the assets are approved and everything is looking right.
Yeah.
Sending assets for pre-order news localized in all the languages. This is something that you can do if the store asks you to do. Sometimes you would like when you open your Switch, you see like all these news articles which are different than the news for your game.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure to what degree it applies nowadays, but this is something that we were supposed to prepare as a publisher, as a developer as well, right? And you have to send in a copy, some images. You have to send it localized in a lot of languages, and takes time. So and this is like one of the opportunity that you're talking, Naseer, in the beginning, and it's like making sure that you maximize your release. Talk to the commercial team there and identify different opportunities, and all these go hand in hand with the submission process, because Nintendo will need to know that the game is approved before they try to help you with or like the game at least is a submission certification before they try to nail down some kind of support for you. Right?
Yeah, they want to know the game is real and it is coming out. I mean, of course.
Right. So, okay, we have the store page approved. And then keys for review. What is that, Naseer? Why do we need them?
So, and this is also like Nintendo specific. You get review keys, which are like keys that unlock the game for people who has this code. They put it in their machine and they get the game before release. And that's how you get reviewers to play your game and write a review about it. How you get YouTubers to maybe stream your game in advance, maybe not. It depends on the marketing strategies.
Yeah.
But review keys basically unlock the game before the release date. Right. And in Nintendo's world, the keys are not sent out until your store page is approved. Because at that stage, you have the game approved, the store page approved, you are ready for release. So you get the keys.
So if I want to send some keys to press, right? Yeah. And ideally, you'd send it 1 week before, let's say, so that they have time to play the game, write a review. This means that you need to have all the other things approved and then make the request. And then how long does it take to get the keys after you make the request?
Nowadays, it's like immediate. When your store page is approved, you get a link saying download codes.
Okay.
Earlier, you had to ask for keys, so that could have taken a few days.
Yeah.
But now it's better.
You're asking every region, right? And
yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think they got annoyed with us, so they just said, download the keys yourself.
So Nintendo, there are 4 or 5 regions, actually. There is Nintendo of Europe, Nintendo of Americas.
Yeah.
Oh, so Latin America is part of Brazil is part of the Nintendo of Americas, or it's separate now?
It's a bit separate now. I think there's so many. And they have Australia, New Zealand.
Right.
Japan, Korea, and Hong Kong.
Yeah, so Japan, and then there is rest of Asia as well, separately. Yeah. And this means that there are 4 different submissions, or it's only one?
You can choose. That's the good thing. So far, we usually say this game is allowed to be released on all regions. Codes, they are region-based.
Right.
But the game itself, you can say, I want it out on all regions. You can also choose to make it per region. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
In case if you have a version that is I want to use this build with this version of I don't know, something specific, right? For Asia or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we made it. We have the coming soon page up and running.
Yes.
The day 1 patch has been approved. We've done such a great job.
Yeah.
And we are talking initially about maybe having launch discount incentive.
Yeah, that's you need to set that up in the store page when in the same place where you submit assets and trailers and copy. You can also apply for launch sales or pre-order sales. Mm-hmm. They're a bit different.
Yeah. Those are a few days. You have to do them a few days before the event.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure if our dear fans watching are aware that sometimes you can have also conditional sales between the games. So if you own Kingdom New Lands, you can get a discount on Kingdom 2 Crowns. That's something we set up for many of our games. And sometimes even coupons or vouchers. They're not available in all the regions, but it's something that we do have from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to reward the fans that have been with us for a long time and supported us by buying our previous games. So we are very grateful for that. Okay, and I think we're done. The demo has been approved, and then we are all ready for the release. But this was only one platform, Naseer.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we should quickly touch maybe on what it takes to release a game on several platforms. Before we do that, why not giving away some codes for the game we're celebrating today?
Sure.
And you guys, know how it's working. We are gonna ask some questions, and the first person who is giving the right answer in the chat will receive a code.
Nice. Should I ask a question, or do you want to do that, Andrea?
Oh yeah, if you have a question, please go ahead.
Okay, so based on the update today, which feature did we add to Kingdom 2 Crowns? It's a big one.
Yes, it's a very big one. Right, okay, so I will quickly just go for some questions in the chat. Many good questions. How many failed submissions did you have on one game?
I won't mention again, but we've had, I think, 5 fails at the worst scenario. And in that case, like, we had to delay the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do the manufacturers give you a schedule time limit to fix the bugs, the issue?
I mean, not really, because for them it's like, if you miss the release date, it's on you. They just report that these are the issues that we found. Please fix them and get back to us.
How many downloads, maybe I think it's about review codes, do you get? And can we get additional ones if we're out of codes?
It's super different between platforms. You have people who are, platforms who are really generous. They give you like 1,000 at a time. And sometimes you get like 20. Additional ones, they can be free, but sometimes you have to buy them. So it really depends on which platform you're working with.
Okay. So some of the answers to the questions are multiplayer, cross-platform. Like, guys, we have to say that Kingdom 2 Crowns have been multiplayer, like co-op from the beginning. So that's not new, and it's been cross-platform, like available to play on several platforms already. Yeah. But maybe you can...
This was a tricky one.
Yeah, maybe you can explain what you mean by cross-platform in this case.
Yeah, I can make a hint. The feature I'm talking about allows you to play Kingdom 2 Crowns on different platforms without losing your progress.
Yes. Oop. So yeah, we like for today for Kingdom 2 Crowns, this update went live on 6 platforms, right? The game is available on 6 platforms. PC, so we're gonna count PC as one platform, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, iOS, and Google Play. Right, so and this has been like it's been an update, so maybe releasing an update is not taking as long as a new game.
No.
But we did release also other games cross platform. So like what shall we say about launching a game cross-platform? Like, how much more additional work it is compared to what we already shared for Nintendo?
It is a lot of additional work. To put it like in a more granular level, what you need to do is you plan every step. So you can't do them all at once because it's too much work. But like for Nintendo, if you start like 11 weeks in advance, then you submit that one and you're done with that, and then you go to the next platform. So let's say PlayStation.
Right.
And then in between waiting for the search results to come back, you submit PlayStation build. And then you maybe get a result back from Nintendo saying, fix this, so you make the fixes and submit them. And there's a waiting time of like 10 days until you get the results back from Nintendo. So you go and submit Xbox. And then PlayStation might get back and say, let's resubmit. So you shift focus to PlayStation, you fix these issues, resubmit, and then you go back to PC, let's say Steam, you submit that game. But the Nintendo comes back and says, you need to resubmit because you've failed these things. So it's a lot just keeping track of what's happening, and you can't expect our developers to like have this overview, but it's our job as publishers to have that and go, we got this result back from Sony, we need to fix these issues, please help. And for Nintendo, these, so you juggle this entire thing for like 2 months, 3 months.
Sounds like a lot of project managing and planning, and it's like, wow, so like, yeah, I got lost.
Yeah.
Right. Are there any like limitations from any platform that you need to keep in mind? Like, as someone said regarding, you have to fix it in a certain time frame, or you have to submit a certain dates in order to.
Sure. So we took Nintendo as an example, and I mentioned that there you can almost release a game without anyone knowing, not even Nintendo, because they just allow you to submit, go through law check, and then your game's out. For Xbox, for example, they want to approve the concept of your game. So almost the first thing you need to do is fill out their concept submission form, where you explain what your game is, what's your vision with it, add screenshots or a clip if you have that. You basically pitch the game to Microsoft. And as far as I've seen so far, they just accept all submissions, but it's part of the process.
Right.
For Sony, you also have a concept form, but not the same way because there's no approval there. But what you need to do is when you submit, they have slots, as they call it. It's almost like a bowling alley. You can't just submit anywhere. You have to find a lane and a time to submit your game. So when we say it's fixed, submit it, it doesn't happen as quickly as with the other platforms because you have to book a slot first.
So what happens if you miss your slot, or how soon after can you book another slot?
Let's say if you do it in the middle of summer, you can probably book another slot the next day. If you do it now, when it's the big AAA period where everyone wants the games out before Christmas, you might need to wait a week until you're allowed to submit.
Right, okay.
So you have to plan that.
Wow. 1 week can, it's...
It can delay again.
Exactly. It's, So, if I understood right, when you kind of start planning, especially for consoles, way in advance and having builds, and then you work in parallel with all these submissions and get feedback and fix and resubmit, and right. So for Refuree, when we have a game that we want to release on 6 platforms, how long time in advance do we start submitting versions?
I think the Switch comes first. So I'd say that 2.5, 3 months in advance, you start the submissions. Sony and Xbox, they require about 30 days. So if you just plan, you don't need to do everything at once.
Wow, a lot of planning.
Yeah.
As I said, yeah. How is it for mobile stores?
Mobile stores, they're interesting. So Google, being Google, you can also release a game by being invincible. No one knows your game is out. But if you want featuring and help, you probably need to do that in 6 weeks in advance. Maybe not submit the game itself, but show them that this is the game running on Android and this is what it is.
Show them the build, yes. Yeah, exactly, have a build.
On iOS, they have a certification process. So after you submit a game, it could take up to a week until you get a result back. What I've seen so far is always quicker, but it can take up to 5 days.
Right, yeah. And hopefully, everything goes well.
Yeah.
Right. And what about Steam or other PC stores that we are working with?
Yeah, Steam, GOG, Humble. So their process is a bit different than consoles and mobile. They will review your game, but it's mostly to make sure that you don't have harmful code. It's not a stolen game. That the features you promise on the store page actually exist in the game.
Right, like achievements and right, cards and
if you have controller support or cloud saves or all of that. So they won't actually look at the game itself, but more of the features of their platform that you're supporting. And that also takes, I'd say, like plan for a week at least, because you can fail these things as well.
Do you want to ask another question about Kingdom to Crowns?
Sure. Let's do it. Codes are fun.
It seemed like the other one was too easy.
Yeah. So this one I like. Who composed the soundtrack of Kingdom to Crowns? It's so, like, when I'm in stressed mode and we have tons of releases, I sometimes open the official OST and just listen to it because it's calming. So who composed the soundtrack for Kingdom to Crowns?
Yes. It's a very, very beautiful music.
Yeah.
Naseer, I have a last question for you.
Sure.
Why do you like what you are doing? And what do you like about it?
For me, it's like it's fulfilling other people's dreams. And it feels so good to be able to help with that. Indie developers, they're often like, it's a smaller team. They have these huge visions of what their games need to be. And being there, being able to help with that, feels so good. So I think that's like seeing the passion and seeing the love that we have for these games. And then see someone on a bus playing the game that you submitted. It feels so good.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Naseer.
Thank you.
Yes, as I said in the beginning, what you are doing, it's such an important thing in bringing games to market and helping the developers, and also hearing about what motivates you to continue doing this. It's very nice, and we are so grateful for what you are doing yourself, and of course the other colleagues doing this.
I'm grateful for everyone here. They share this emotion for the games. It's so good to see.
Yes, yeah. And we're so grateful for our developers as well.
Yeah.
That let us work with their games.
I mean, without them, we're nothing. It's their games. It's so good.
All right, so I think that's it for today. Maybe we should go and play some Kingdom. You can play anywhere. You could have played anywhere actually before as well, but now you can continue anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? The game, which is an amazing feature, and we are so happy that we have it out there. And thank you everyone for watching and for always supporting us and being nice to us.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.